Using success criteria and objectives to create a learning pathway for students. Driving in heavy rain or a snowstorm is especially difficult behind a semi-truck. The spray sweeps up a wall of mist that limits vision of what's beyond. Yet, if we get past that truck, our vision of the road is clearer. Students need a clear view of the roadmap that they're expected to follow. Each new school year is a crossroads of many travel options. Students drive their learning when we share the maps, empowering them to chart their way to various unit destinations. So, why is success criteria important? Shirley Clark writes, students must understand what they are expected to learn before they can take responsibility for their own learning. In many instances, students have misconceptions about what they're learning, why they're learning it, and how they will know they learned it. Clark goes on to talk about the benefits of using success criteria with students. One of the big benefits is engagement. Students who are able to identify weaknesses and identify strengths can better serve themselves educationally. Also, students who are aware of strengths, weaknesses, and their own performance can help us better with our one-on-one conferences with students. Clark also writes that in order to have the maximum impact for success criteria, the success criteria or learning pathways, the roadmap we're discussing, needs to be shared with students. Not only shared, but accessible. Next, we're going to review an example roadmap. The objective for this particular roadmap is for students to compose a one-paragraph CER, or claim evidence reasoning, by creating an argumentative claim that is supported by relevant evidence. As you can see, I've decided to make this roadmap for students a staircase because I want them to see that every step they take is a step upward. I'm using success criteria for my initial steps and an objective for our final step, the top of the staircase. The success criteria I'm using is all important because it leads to the objective. All of the skills are going to be important for students to actually write that one-paragraph CER. For students, I've identified every step along the way, and we'll break those down momentarily. When we look at step A1, students will identify the differences between strong claims and weak claims. I will also assign a formative assessment to each of my success criteria to check for understanding. In this way, I can differentiate if needed or offer enrichment for other students. Students here, using No Red Ink, an online platform, will identify strong claims versus weak claims. When students move on to step A2, they will identify claims in a written argumentative work. Again, there's a formative assessment where students will take annotated notes focused on highlighting claims the author makes. Our student example is a text that students read where their objective, again, is just to identify those claims by highlighting them. Students move on now to step A3, where they create strong claims by identifying the main idea of evidence provided. As you can see, steps A1 and A2 center around identifying claims. Now, students moving on to A3 will create their own claims. So we slowly increase the rigor or the depth of knowledge as we move up our staircase. For this particular formative assessment, students will be given 10 pieces of evidence and provide a main idea for each piece of evidence. The goal here is for students to realize that evidence supports the main idea of their claim. The example on the left is an excerpt from a reading. Students had to find the main idea of that quote and compose their own claim. The example this particular student wrote is, "Migrant workers' most important fight regards unfair working conditions." The last step on our learning pathway, or roadmap, was for students to compose the one-paragraph CER by creating an argumentative claim that is supported by relevant evidence. Here, I'm offering students a summative assessment. All of the formative assessments led to this summative, or all of our success criteria led to this objective. As you can see here, a student has submitted a one-paragraph CER. However, when I am grading this CER, my focus is very targeted on the claim because that is what this series of lessons was about. I'm not grading their evidence. I'm not grading their reasoning. I am focusing on their claim. However, I can use this data informally to guide my future instruction. I can see how students are doing writing claims. I can also see how students are doing when writing their reasoning. Again, as we moved up our staircase here from A1 to A2 to A3, and finally to our objective or summative goal, the level of DOK increased. So, can gradebook support my roadmap? Absolutely. In gradebook, when I am putting in a new assignment, I'm going to label it A1 No Red Ink Claims. My abbreviation is also A1. Therefore, I am reflecting back to my roadmap and bridging my roadmap and my gradebook. Now, when I pull up my gradebook, I can clearly see as a teacher that A1, A2, and A3 all lead to my summative assessment of A. From a student's perspective, they may have an easier time identifying what formative assessments led to what particular summative assessment. So if a student can go back and see that they performed well or did not perform well on either A1, A2, or A3, they know that that will have an impact on their summative A quiz. When students understand the learning behind the learning target, they are developing their own success criteria. This enables students to better understand what teachers expect them to know, understand, or to be able to do, as well as what constitutes a proficient performance. This allows students to support each other and take responsibility for their own learning by helping them accurately and appropriately evaluate learning against shared expectations and make any necessary adjustments to their learning. Students become activated as learners. Great Scott!